Physics, day 164, half-life and radiometric dating. So, and this can be, well, it's not really controversial, but there is, I guess, controversy with the interpretation of how this all is applied. I'll get to that in a little bit. But here's some terms, first off, some of which is a review from chemistry last year. But a Geiger counter is a device that's used to measure the three types of radioactive decay, the main kinds, alpha, beta, and gamma, that we studied in the last unit, 163. Alpha basically is a helium nucleus, 2 protons, 2 neutrons that come out of a nucleus. Beta is a high-speed electron coming from a nucleus, where a neutron, quote-unquote, changes into a proton. And then gamma radiation, which is a high-energy photon coming from the nucleus. Okay, half-life, the amount of time for half the amount of radioactive atoms in a sample to decay. So these rates are pretty predictable and quite consistent, and there are some popular ones, especially carbon-14, which I'll get to in a minute here, but they can be used, obviously, to date things, date old things. So that's what we're going to be doing, talking about dating old things and how old are these things. So how does this work? Well, if you know how much radioactive material in a particular sample that they dug out of the ground or found, not in your backyard, but out in the wilderness or whatever, something that's dug up, or like fossils or rocks, if you know how much radioactive material was at the beginning, which is called the parent material, so you dig up a sample and you know it has, there's kind of a graph here in the middle of the page here, 100 atoms that are radioactive of the sample, just making up a number, usually it's a lot more than that or whatever. And you know the half-life, in other words, how long on average, and this is a statistical average, that it takes for that material to lose half of its radioactive material. And the graph kind of here below is showing you, let's see here, like right here, after one half-life, 50% of what was there, 100 atoms, now you're down to 50 atoms by random chance, but it might be 49 or 51, but somewhere around 50 of the atoms are still radioactive. And for different things, as you'll see in a few minutes here, like carbon below down here, that takes about 5,730 years for half the atoms that were radioactive to become, to decay into a non-radioactive state. Going back up to the top here. So it's useful, like I say, if you know how much radioactive material is at the beginning, how much radioactivity you have, and you know the half-life, you can calculate how much time has passed. There are some assumptions. The assumptions are that the rate of decay remains constant. And I think that's a pretty good assumption. I have some issues, though, with assumption number 2, and that is the amount of radioactive material in the parent is known at the beginning. And there are speculations put forth about, how much, say, one of the major ones, like carbon-14, is one of the most popular ones, as you'll see, and you've heard about it. I'll come back to that in a second. And the third assumption is that the samples are not contaminated as you measure them or use them. But the second assumption there about how much radioactive material is at the beginning is the biggest issue. For example, and that's where I think we get into some problems. Go down here. Carbon-14, the most famous radioactive material that we use for dating, at least things that were organic, things that had carbon in them, things that were living at one time, plants and animals specifically. You cannot carbon date rocks. Okay, rocks are not organic. They essentially have no carbon-14 in them. Where does this carbon-14 come from? Well, the carbon-14 comes from the air. Our atmosphere has carbon, but also has carbon-14, and we know the percentage of carbon-14 in the air, in the atmosphere, and plants and animals. So animals eat plants. Plants go through the respiratory process where they take in air and water, and they get carbon-14 molecules in their substance. And then when people and animals eat the plants, they take in a certain amount. And we know how much carbon-14 is in our current atmosphere. So if we know there's, 100 particles in a particular sample out of, 5,000 or whatever, but then it's decaying at that rate, and then we dig up something in the backyard or wherever it's from, and it's decaying, or it has half of what we expect it to have. It has only 50 particles instead of the 100 particles we expected to have in that particular sample. We believe it's gone through one half-life. In other words, half of what was there originally is now gone. So if it's a sample that has half the amount of carbon-14 in it that we expected it to have, whether it's a dug-up old plant or something that, an old bone, let's say, that had been buried for many, many years, if it has half the amount of carbon-14 in it than we expect, then, well, yeah, that's 5,700 years old, okay? So you can do the math, fairly fast here. After 2 cycles, 2 half-lives, if you go like, well, let's just round off the 5,700, let's round it off to 6,000 just for illustrative purposes right here. So like if this were like, this is like 6,000 years, 12,000 years, you'd have roughly 25% of the carbon-14 left after 12,000 years. And then another half-life would be 6,000 more years, so you're at about 18,000 years. So if that particular sample only has about 12% of what we expected for the carbon-14, we would think it's like 3 of those cycles old. The problem with it is, okay, we don't know for sure how much carbon-14 there was in the atmosphere 3, 4, 5, 6,000 years old. We're assuming it stayed constant, which I think is very problematic. We don't know how much carbon-14 was in the air 5,000 years ago. We talk about climate change and all that kind of stuff. I'm not going to get into all the details or all the pros and cons for that right now, but so I don't know. I don't think there was as much carbon-14 in the air years ago, and I think the Noah's flood had a big impact on how much carbon-14 was in the air. Once again, there'll be people that disagree with that, but I think a lot of these age dating methods, even for using carbon-14, are off because, if Noah's flood was indeed 4,000 to 5,000 years ago, and there was carbon-14, a different amount of carbon-14 in the air before the flood than after the flood, then all the dates kind of get off. I think you can use carbon-14 dating for things that are 2, 3, 4,000 years old, but even after that, it gets more problematic. And in fact, you can't, if you ascribe to this whole theory here, even if you put full faith in the amount of carbon-14 in the air and these decay rates, after about 5 or 6 or 7 cycles or half-lives, there's so little carbon-14 left, it becomes hard to measure. So even if it's working, okay, you can't go back more than 50 or 60,000 years old, even if you believe the Earth is that old, which I don't, but it's another issue, related issue. But let me summarize this. Assumptions are made that the amount of carbon-14 in the air has not changed. I don't think that's true. I think it has changed, and the big game changer there was Noah's flood. Here's something everybody believes, okay? It only works for organic materials. All right? So don't let anybody tell you that they're using carbon-14 to date rocks. They don't. Even if the tissue is old, as I said a few minutes ago, after 50,000 years, if you're losing half every 6,000 years of the carbon-14, there's going to be so little you can't measure anymore. There should be essentially 0 carbon-14 after 100,000 years for sure, and even after about 50,000 years, it's so small that you can't measure it too well. So that essentially begs the question, why is there carbon-14 in dinosaur bones? that are supposedly 60 million years old or older? Well, my answer would be that the dinosaur bones are not that old. They're in the thousands, not even the tens of thousands years old, because otherwise there would be no carbon-14. They're finding carbon-14 in dinosaur bones. Now, to summarize a few things here, or to extend this a little bit, carbon-14 cannot be used for dating rocks since it's only present in organic materials like plants and animals. How do they date rocks then? Well, they use other radioisotopes, so they use a similar method with half-life, but they use potassium argon, where potassium is the parent, so they dig up a rock and it has a certain amount of potassium in it. We know the half-life of potassium decays into argon, and if it has just a little bit of argon, we say that rock is not that old, but these half-lives are in the more like the millions of years, not the thousands of years like carbon-14. Carbon-14 has that 5,700-year half-life, whereas potassium argon, I don't know what the half-life is, but it might be a million years or some big number like that. But if you find a lot of argon in a sample with potassium and argon, that they would say that that rock is older because it's had more time to decay into more argon. And they have percentages and statistical analysis and so forth that, okay, it has some validity, but once again, there's a lot of problems here, assuming, once again, how much potassium or rubidium or uranium. Uranium decays into lead. Once again, they'll take an old rock, inorganic material, and measure how much uranium and how much lead is in it, and the more lead, the older it is. All right? There's also some circular reasoning going on at times, because sometimes they'll find some rocks and say they're old because, they got fossils in them because these fossils are old. Or they'll say, okay, well, these fossils are old because it's found in this old rock. So there's some of that going on as well. But bottom line is, I think there's some serious issues with the whole carbon dating and radiometric dating. There's some validity to it, at least for things that are within 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,000 years old. But here are the main problems I'm trying to illustrate, and that is, okay, they find carbon-14 in dinosaur bones that are supposedly millions of years old. That's a problem. That's a problem. There should be no carbon-14 in dinosaur bones because they died out 65 million years ago. They find carbon-14 in diamond crystals that are supposedly billions of years old. They find carbon-14 in coal that's supposedly millions of years old. How is carbon-14 in any of these things if they're millions of years old? Because after 50 to 100,000 years for sure, there should be no detectable carbon-14. It breaks down into its daughter products. Helium, another problem. Helium is a byproduct of uranium-lead decay. But they find helium in granite. It's found in zircon crystals in the rocks that are supposedly, once again, millions and billions of years old. Helium is the smallest atom there is, and it leaks out like it leaks out of balloons, okay? But they find it in granite samples. Why? Well, because I don't think the granite is as old as they say it is using their radiometric dating, all right? So using different methods, sometimes they come up with significantly different ages for the rocks. Igneous rocks, volcanic rocks, that is, that we know are young, like, say, from Mount St. Helens, okay, which erupted in 1980. Those rocks were deposited, that magma, okay, that lava was deposited there from inside the volcano, came outside, and then they dated this rock, and they're dating it with various ages, and some of them are like 300,000 years old. Well, that rock was just put there. So you got to do some mental gymnastics to make that all fit. I just think the better explanation is these things are not as old as they lead you to believe. Even though there's some validity, especially to the carbon-14 for organic materials, I think a lot of these other methods break down because mainly we don't know how much there was there to begin with, and there's that assumption. And we're assuming also that the decay rates are constant, which that's a pretty good assumption. But overall, I think you should be very skeptical of these dating methods other than for the short term, 2, 3, 4, 5,000 years old, the carbon-14 dating method can work.